Right, giving people, and I'm sure people will be joining as we move along throughout the seminar. Welcome to What's New in Teams Contact Center, which is a production of Nuvola and Luware. So hopefully there'll be plenty of information to take away for after today. So I'm just going to quickly explain the team. So today on the webinar around the Luware side of things is Katrina, who's the marketing manager here at Nuvola. Karen Blackman, who is head of cloud, and Ian Blackman, who is an account manager at Nuvola. And these will probably be your points of contact should you have any questions around the Luware side of things after today. And the key member of today is Ollie Lively, head of UK sales. We've worked with Ollie for some time now. A great font of knowledge and always a very good presenter around the Luware solutions. So, agenda, myself, I'm just going to talk for 15 minutes or so, talking about a bit of Nuvola, CX practice. You can see my name, Michael Lloyd. Then we're going to pass over to Ollie, who's going to be talking about the contact center update and specifically about some of the updates which are kind of changing how contact center and teams are looking. And I'm sure he's going to use the word AI a number of times. And then finally, we've got a Q&A session. So during the webinar, if you've got any questions, please put it into the Q&A box. And at the end of the day, at the end of the session, we will go through those. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will come back to people and show everyone the questions and the answers, but hopefully we'll have time to do it all. So please feel free to interact. The beauty of Teams, there's lots of little buttons you can use, so please feel free to be part of the webinar in that respect. So just quickly, if you don't know about Nuvola, established in about 2010. We started as a service-only business, and then in 2013 became a distributor. We have obviously offices in Reading, but we also have an office over in Dublin with a warehouse facility as well. This has proved very useful for our partners who are looking for access into the Republic of Ireland, but also a clean access into Europe, avoiding all the shenanigans that go with it. Using that company, we can make your lives a lot easier. General overview of Nuvola. We are very strong around the comms and cloud services, both hardware and software. We don't present any conflict to our partners. We are a distributor, therefore channel only. Talking today around the Teams ecosystem. Sorry, I'm not sure if people can hear me or not.
Yeah, I can hear you, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you, Ollie. Cheers. We also, around all these products, we have value-added service, pro services around presaging, surveying, installation, post-sale support, maintenance, all around all the products we sell from the UC, UCAS and CCAS side of things. So the big thing for us, though, is our role is changing as a distributor. In the old world, it used to be how much stock do you hold, very price driven, which I appreciate is still very important nowadays, but also how quickly can you get it delivered. We have moved across into what is needed today. We feel our partners need us to understand from a distribution side of things around providing the right solution. And that actually translates into more of a consultancy approach. We've got to understand what your customers' business challenges are, and with that, put the best solution together. So rather than potentially distributors would act in such a way where it'd be round peg, square hole. We're making sure that we put the best solution for your end users to ensure that they get the best from you. And that will mean that they come back. They'll say, okay, good, safe pair of hands, gave us the right advice. There is other things they can do. And the final piece is how you consume. Wholesale or agency, monthly recurring, one-off, all these side of things. We, as a distributor now, must be able to offer these different choices because you are having to offer these to your customers as well. So moving on to Luware, we're very proud to present that I think about a month ago we became a Luware Platinum distribution partner. What that means is we had to get qualified on sales, on pre-sales, on support, which encompasses what we call Luware Care, and finally installation. So we've had to make sure that before we can get this certification, we've had to put a lot of commitment into Luware, which we were happy to do. And that's put us in a really good, strong position to help you as partners, along with Luware, to deliver Luware out into the market. So there's some channel benefits to you as customers, okay? And certainly where Luware sits is basically around teams and differentiating yourselves from your competitors. We appreciate there's Operator Connect, there's direct routing, there's hybrid, all those kind of connectivity side of things, which unfortunately in today's world is becoming slightly commoditized, therefore the margin. So this is where you need to look at the other products on the ecosystem where you as partners, again, can differentiate yourselves from your competition, but also enable you to go into your customers and say, okay, what's your challenge? What are you trying to achieve with teams? Okay, let's look out. And that obviously gives you the standout from the competition. With us being a platinum partner means you've got a low barrier to entry. And that includes not only cost, but utilizing our sales skills, pre-sales skills, installation support means you can get straight into that market with a little commitment. We would always say, get your salespeople up and running, understanding what the product is, understanding the features and the benefits, which we can help you with. And it also maybe allows you to walk into customers that you haven't been able to talk to in the past. So in the past, they've said with Microsoft, you might have gone, okay, don't really do much. We are giving you that access to those customers and saying, okay, we have a Teams ecosystem. We understand Teams. Let us work with you. So as Nuvola, we've approached, as I've said, more of a solutions base. So it's around modern workplace collaboration, which a lot of people are talking about. And we look at it as 5 silos. You've got the UCAS at the top, which is the classic 8x8s, Ring Centrals, NFONs, Dialpad. You've then got the unified comms. Now, there's still a lot of on-premise solutions out there where people are reluctant to rip out and replace for now. So they're looking for hybrid solutions. With voice, it's still a key component in any organization. And therefore, we need to still continue to ensure it's secure and we can analyze what is the behavior of the voice environment. And that's where the security and analytics come in. Obviously, fundamental, if you want to go into a customer and offer the full solution, connectivity is number 1. Again, we have some very good relationships out there where we can give you the full solution. And infrastructure as well with data and Wi-Fi. And then finally, which is obviously what we're talking about today, is contact center and AI. A key component for our resellers, because high margin, but also makes these customers very sticky once you get into that level of conversation. So what we've done is created some tools to help you there. One of the key things is our CX practice. So what we've done with this is we appreciate a lot of partners. This might be a new world. It might be something where some of the salespeople feel uncomfortable to talk about because historically they haven't moved into that because it feels as it's specialist. So we've put together a practice which means that we can offer you the support, around all the different products and also the conversation pieces, also the solution side of things. So make sure that we can go with you to your end users and say, yeah, we can take care of it all. The integration, the multimedia, the CRM, along with all the other side of things of ongoing support as well. And the way we do that is ensuring that you approach these opportunities correctly. And one of the key things is at the top there is discovery. If we approach it in that way, that deal will be more likely to come to you. So it's making sure you're there at the earliest instinct, and that's where we would advise you to come to us and say, I've got an opportunity, customers looking for 200 seats, they want a bit of omni-channel, they want some chat, but whatever. We would then go, okay, let us have a conversation with the customer, with you, and find out exactly what we need. Because if we get it right there earlier, that will make sure that they will feel you as a trusted partner to go back to and talk about it. And we've been doing this for a while. You can see we've done a lot of users, a lot of seats across different verticals. And with our technical expertise, we can make sure that we can offer that to your end users and give them the best solution. And then the other tools is the actual complete Microsoft Teams ecosystem, which, again, if you're familiar with Nuvola, you would have seen this a number of times. But this is saying that these are all the parts outside of the licenses, the traditional licenses, where it is a bit of a bum fight. This is where you say, okay, Mr. Customer, you get your licenses from here, or you might even supply them licenses. But what about direct routing, connectivity? What about, hold on, you may feel that you want to use an 8x8 UC solution as your front end, but we want to have Luware behind it. Devices, the whole Yealink mobile working side of things with SpectraLink. Again, something that is forgotten about. You might have an opportunity where it's a manufacturing plant. They put in the contact center solution and the UC solution, and suddenly they go, oh yeah, we've got 20 workers out in the factory. We need them to be part of the team. We need to make sure they're safe. With products and solutions like SpectraLink, that will encapsulate the whole team's environment, and they will be part of the solution. Contact center, we're going to talk about Luware and where they fit and their strengths. Call recording, again, very important. PCI compliance, all those kind of things that, again, are probably thought about at the end, but it's a good way of monthly recurring, makes the customer sticky, opens different doors. And obviously, finally, you've got the DR, the management and the monitoring, which is where Ribbon with their SBCs, connectivity, their analytics, and their solutions when, again, with the hybrid comes very strongly. Like I said, we've got the infrastructure that goes with that, and then the professional services. So we feel very strongly about Nuvola Assist and the support, the ongoing support for these customers. Whereas initially a lot of these kind of cloud solutions was once you put it in, you won't have to worry about it again. We don't believe that. These end users are now seeing that, hold on, yeah, I've put my solution in, but I still have support issues. I still have questions. Who do I call? Well, there could be times when you have to call someone who might not be in the UK, for example. So you get language barriers, you've got timing barriers. What we're doing is saying, well, okay, let's put something in between where they have someone who they can call, who they can feel confident that will be able to fix the solution or potentially help navigate to getting the fix in place. We also got the playbook. So again, speak to the team if you want that. And that goes to all our products around all the 5 silos, which again is great for the salespeople to have in front of them should they need them, talking to their end users. Like I mentioned, Nuvola Assist, which incorporates the Luware care. So again, with our platinum status, we can offer you as resellers that level 1 and 2 support that you potentially would have had to purchase from Luware, and we can make it commercially attractive, but also we can give you the value add wrap, not only on Luware care. So again, something that we'll be talking about a lot in the coming weeks and be pushing information out. So that's me done. Just a couple of email addresses, but we will no doubt be in touch. I think I'm spot on, which is pretty impressive for me. I am now going to stop sharing and pass over to the lovely Ollie.
Thanks, Mike. You've given me a big bill in there to live up to, so I'll do my
always.
best. Let me just share my screen here. So what I wanted to do today is obviously give everyone a bit of an overview of what's new in our space in Teams Contact Center. And I've kept the agenda really simple here so we can dive into it in a nice amount of detail. So let's look at two things here. So first of all, we've been doing a lot of work to integrate Copilot into our solutions. So I want to take you through that, take you through some use cases to that, and actually give you a bit of a live demo of that. So fingers crossed that goes well. And then secondly, I wanted to talk through Unify integration. So Unify integration is Microsoft's latest integration model with Teams. So I wanted to talk through that and talk through the implications of that. So I just wanted to quickly give you an overview of what we're doing at Luware, what we're focusing on. So we've developed an app called Luware Nimbus. So Nimbus is a native customer service app for Teams. We've been certified by Microsoft, and we're one of the launch partners for this Unify integration, but we've been certified at the Extend level for quite a few years now. This is all SaaS cloud native, so there's nothing to actually host or install in the customer's environment. We run all of that out of Azure. And you'll get a bit of a theme today about how we will leverage that wider Microsoft ecosystem. And a lot of what we're going to talk about with Copilot, with Power Automate, with integrating CRMs, really demonstrates how we leverage that wider Microsoft ecosystem. So that's a bit of a flavor about what we do. So let's jump into how we're leveraging Copilot. So I mentioned there where we sit in that Microsoft ecosystem, and I think this really illustrates that nicely. So when a call comes into Teams, then Nimbus connects straight out of the box to that call. But we have access to various different tools which allow us to enhance that experience and to really deliver some of the functionality, some AI functionality, some integration functionality that people now expect from contact center solutions. So if you think about Power Automate here, Nimbus has a Microsoft Power Automate connector. Power Automate is Microsoft's integration platform. So there are hundreds and hundreds of connectors out there to all of the major CRMs and apps and databases. So we've developed and certified a connector into that solution, which means that we can really easily, with low code workflows, integrate into lots of those different tools. We use Azure Communication Services for things like chat and video that we can bring in from the website. We're now starting to use Copilot, and I'll take you through lots of those different use cases on how we're using Copilot. We use Power BI for our historical reporting. So there are lots of tools here that we're using within that Microsoft ecosystem to enhance our platform. And I think what we find from speaking to customers is that a lot of them are already entrenched in this ecosystem. They're already using a lot of these tools in other areas. And therefore, when we start to bring this into the contact center and CX conversation, it's familiar to them and it's tools that they're already investing in. So taking a step back, this is kind of how we see the journey for a customer, specifically relating to a voice call. And this is how we can see Nimbus with AI assisting that caller experience journey. So we've got various different stages here at the top. So at the start of that call, you might want to go into an IVR that triages that call to the right place. Okay, so ask the customer, what do you want to speak to us about today? So we've got a virtual user and some automation there that can essentially triage that call to the right place. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. That call, then generally, if that can't be handled by the virtual user, which there are obviously some use cases that can be all handled by an AI virtual user, that call might then go to the queue. It might then be connected to an agent. And that's where our Nimbus Companion comes in. So Nimbus Companion is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for the agent around kind of summarization, next steps, logging activities to CRM. So saving a lot of time there around that manual task that an agent might have had to do without the intervention of AI there. So that's the Nimbus Companion. And then after the call, we see AI with our virtual assistants. We see lots of different use cases. One use case that we're working on at the moment that I think is really interesting is a virtual assistant around kind of reporting. So we're going to be releasing a virtual assistant for supervisors and managers where they can chat, like you can chat to ChatGPT, and you can ask questions. Okay, what was Ollie's handle rate 2 weeks ago? What was our acceptance SLA in this service over this period? So that kind of chats to a bot that's going to help with reporting metrics. So this is at a very kind of high level where we see different components of Luware coming in to assist that customer journey, right from that kind of automation and AI bot at the start of the call. And then if that call needs to be connected to an agent, how we can assist that agent during that call with the Nimbus Companion. And then after that call in the wrap up, what we can do with our virtual assistants there. So in terms of the components that are needed for this native Copilot integration, we essentially deploy an Azure speech-to-text service. These are known as speech recognizers. At the moment, all of our use cases are built using Copilot Studio. So that's the AI engine that we're using, although in the future, we will be opening that up so customers can bring their own third-party AI tools. And then once you've built those services, you essentially use this virtual user element of our workflow to choose the virtual user from Copilot. So you might have a virtual user that's specialized in sales, a virtual user that's specialized in customer service. And then you can essentially design exits from that virtual user, a bit like a traditional IVR. So if the virtual user says it needs to go to a queue, then we design an exit to go to a queue. If the virtual user says to transfer to somewhere else, then we can do those transfers from that virtual user to somewhere else. Something that you'll also see a bit later on in some of these use cases is how we can then trigger Copilot flows. So this allows us to build out interactions and integrations with third-party CRM systems and database systems, create tickets, recall information from these systems. So there's some really interesting use cases there. But these are some of the core components that we're using in this Copilot integration. So what I wanted to do, just before I go through some of the use cases, I wanted to take you through a bit of a demo of this middle part here, Nimbus Companion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a call into myself. So I'll answer that call. I'm going to have a bit of a conversation with myself. Okay, so that's going to be slightly awkward, but I'm going to do my best. We're going to have a conversation with ourselves to generate a transcription. And then I'm going to show you how our Nimbus Companion within Teams can then automate some of the follow-up actions for that agent. So I'm going to come into Nimbus now. Okay, so this is our Luware Nimbus app that sits in Teams here. And I'm going to put this call into our queue. So you'll see it appearing in this queue in the top left here in a moment.
1 for enterprise routing. 2 for attendant comms. Welcome to the customer service line. You are position 1 in the queue.
So it's told me my position in the queue there. That call's now going to ring through to me. So I'm just going to answer that call natively in Teams here. So I've answered that call. I'm just going to put myself on mute just for the moment. And then I'm going to start the conversation. So I'm just going to simulate a quick conversation about Nimbus. So obviously I've got the agent here and I've got the customer on my mobile. So I'm just going to start this conversation now. Hi, thanks for calling Luware. How can I help you today? Hello, I'd like to get some more information about Luware. I'd like to understand the licensing model and the capabilities around AI integration. Sure, happy to help you with that. So Luware is a native customer Teams app. It's licensed either via queue, via service with enterprise routing, or you can license the full contact center. We use Copilot to integrate natively AI workflows to assist agents and to assist the customer with virtual users. That's great. Can you send me some information via email, please? Sure, happy to send some information via email. Thanks very much for your call. Okay, so I've hung that call up now. Thank you for bearing with me in that excruciating simulation of a call. So what's going to happen there is essentially the agent is going to be sent a few things via Teams chat. So what we've got here is, as that call was finished, we've got a summary here of that call. So we can see that Bob, who is my mobile caller, there he's seeking some information about Luware, specifically regarding the licensing model and the AI integration capabilities. Okay, so that's automatically sent to the agent after the call. And then what AI is going to do here is it's going to suggest some follow-up tasks. So it's suggested a couple of tasks here. So follow up with Bob in a week, see if he has any further questions, or send Bob some requested information via email. So we're going to go with that one there to create that task. What that's then going to do is it's going to create that task automatically in our CRM. And it's also created a call log with that summary in our CRM here. So if I click into that call log, that's going to open up our Salesforce system in this scenario. So it's given us that inbound call summary. So we've got the time of that call, and we've got the transcription summary there about what happened in that call. And if I go to this task here, it also created that follow-up task to send Bob some information there. So send Bob the request information via email. So that's just a kind of a simple example of how we're using the Nimbus companion there to summarize the call. Okay, so the agent doesn't have to worry about taking notes, to suggest some follow-up actions. So again, the agent, if there are multiple follow-up actions, they don't have to worry about keeping note of them during the call, and also log both of the call activity and the follow-up action in the CRM. So I think overall, obviously, it's going to depend on how many actions there are, but you can easily see this saving a few minutes per call. And obviously, if you're a heavy inbound contact center with multiple agents, with several agents, if you can save 3 minutes of after-call work time for that agent with tools like this, and you multiply that across 50 calls a day, across 100 agents, you can really easily see how the ROI stacks up very, very quickly. So that's a live example of how we're using that Nimbus companion. I'll now jump back into some of these other use cases that we're seeing with this virtual user integration. No, I don't want to start again. That wouldn't be very fun for everyone. Let's go from the current slide. So if we go back to the start of that journey there, that triage, as I put it on the last slide, we've actually got a banking customer in Europe who said by implementing an intent recognition bot at the start of their calls, they improved the first call resolution from 70% to 96%. And that was literally just by putting a bot at the start of the call and asking, what do you want to speak to us about today? And then letting that bot transfer the agent to the right department rather than the caller choosing from an IVR list. Okay. We found that a bot and taking what the customer wants to speak to us about and then processing that and then using that to decide where we transfer is way more accurate than a caller deciding from an IVR list. I think often callers just want to choose the option where they've got the most chance of speaking to someone, or the option maybe that they've spoken to before, if they've called in before, rather than actually listening to the full list and making that decision themselves. So we would call this that intent recognition scenario. And essentially what we're doing here is we're just replacing the IVR with a bot. And then as you can see here from the screenshots, we can build out these exits from this virtual user component in our workflow, and we can transfer these to queues, we can transfer these externally, we can do whatever we like with these once we've built these exits. Okay, so I think that's a very simple but very effective way of using Copilot or using AI in a voice workflow. The next scenario I want to talk through here is this kind of detecting urgency or detecting sentiment. So once we've taken that initial kind of input of what do you want to speak to us about today, we can use Copilot, we can use AI to analyze that and decide whether this is an urgent request, whether somebody's in distress, whether somebody needs that urgent help. So there are loads of different use cases for this, but let's say you've got that local authority kind of use case where somebody calls in, they're speaking to the social services bot and they sound very distressed, or they've got a very urgent issue with childcare, or they're in immediate danger. Then what we would essentially do at that point is we would detect that it's urgent or somebody's in distress. We can then give it a very high distribution priority. So at that point, we take it straight out of the AI bot and we deliver it to a queue with real agents in it, but we give it a high distribution priority, so it goes straight to the top of that queue. This might also be used when logging tickets, right? If you've got that service desk scenario, we could see here whether this ticket is actually high urgency or not, and we could get AI to do some of that initial ticket triage there. And obviously, you can base this on various parameters of what you deem to be urgent. So somebody just saying, "Oh, I have an urgent request for a mouse. I need it sent urgently," the AI isn't going to then just necessarily log that as an urgent request. We can set some parameters in place there and say, okay, no, they need a mouse. That's not urgent. That's probably a low priority. Okay, and we log that ticket with a low priority, even if the caller has said it's urgent. Okay? So lots of really nice use cases for this urgency or sentiment detection. I think we've all been through that experience of completing that customer satisfaction or that CSAT at the end of a call. I think traditionally in contact centers, this would be done by an IVR. So please rate your service today out of 5. Press 1 if it was bad, press 5 if it was great. Okay, and then just going through some questions via the IVR. That's fine, and it works pretty effectively. However, if we use Copilot and if we use AI to do this instead, I think this just creates a much more conversational experience for the customer, hopefully more bearable to go through that satisfaction survey, right? So that more conversational tone, but also if you wanted to capture other data, this would be a much better way to do it. I think with the IVR, you're kind of constrained a little bit by the kind of data you can capture. You can only really capture that numerical data, but with this, you can capture longer input. So you could say, okay, just please tell me in your own words what you found our service to be like today. And then you can just capture that, transcribe that, put that into a CRM, put that into a form, do whatever you want with it afterwards. So another nice use case here, making that more conversational rather than robotic kind of IVR survey. This is what I would say is your kind of FAQ bot. So this is probably what most people would think of when they're thinking about an AI voice bot. So of course we can add knowledge bases to Copilot. We can take internal resources as those knowledge bases. So that might be SharePoint information. It might just be your website. It might be white papers. So we can add lots of knowledge to the Copilot Studio bot. And then we can allow that bot to essentially generate answers based on FAQ type questions. Of course, using that workflow element in Nimbus, we can design various exits. So if the customer isn't getting the information they want, we can design an exit there. And we can also add certain controls there over what data that they can access. And you can decide in Copilot whether you want this to be generated by AI or you want it to be strictly based on the knowledge bases. So I think there are some really nice controls there around what information the bot is giving back out to the caller, because obviously that's a massive concern of a lot of customers. There's been a lot of negative press around bots generating and that AI hallucination. So there's some controls that can be added in here. I think this is really good for those simple queries. So again, if we're looking at that local authority use case, what data am I bins collected? Those kind of questions can be answered really easily by a bot. And I think also when we combine this with interacting with a CRM here, we can pull information from CRM systems and then read that information back to agents. I think this is where we start to get some really interesting use cases around how we can interact with the customer's other business tools with Copilot Studio and with these virtual users. So we've got a use case here around creating a ticket. So we can create a ticket, we can take what that ticket's about, we can obviously prioritize that ticket, play back the ticket number that's just been created there. Or the customer might want to understand, is there an update about my ticket, or is there an update about my order status? All of this is interacting with the customer CRM system, in this scenario ServiceNow, and then pulling information, saying it back to the customer, and then also taking information from the customer and then putting that into the CRM. And a lot of this, again, is about automating kind of monotonous processes. And we could do some of this automation with Power Automate, but this just makes it a lot more conversational. And it also means that with the topics in Copilot Studio, customers can jump around from different topics. So, for example, they might want to check their council tax status to start with, and then they might want to change their address, and then they might want to raise a new request. So they could jump around different topics, and within those topics, we can build out the desired workflows, the desired behavior within each of these topics. So I think when we're speaking to customers, we're always trying to understand, okay, what obviously what CRMs they're using, but what are their repetitive processes that they're going through, their agents are doing regularly, and then we can see how we can automate some of that using Copilot Studio and virtual users. And then finally here, another use case is around callback. So I think we've all been offered a callback from a contact center. Again, this just makes our more experience more conversational. So rather than, do you want to call back, press 1, we can say, okay, when do you want to call back? Okay, I want to call back tomorrow at 3. That translates that, it creates a callback task, and then it puts it back into the queue at that time. Okay, so a really nice way of giving those callbacks. Or as you saw from that kind of demo that I just put in there, it might be, I know I don't want a callback. It's, do you want an email? Do you want a WhatsApp? Do you want an SMS? So asking the customer, do they want to engage on other channels? Okay, and then using Copilot Studio to trigger those engagements. The final one I've got here is around email content. So we've spoken a lot about voice. So Nimbus is a full omnichannel solution. We've built this use case here where we can actually analyze the urgency. We can analyze the sentiment of an email, and then we actually use Copilot to suggest a reply to that email. So again, it's automating, it's speeding up those agent interactions. With this use case here, using Copilot with our emails, we can actually suggest responses, and of course, we can do that based on templated responses. We can do that based on common questions that we get, so we can really help assist the agents there by suggesting some responses. Okay, so that's kind of wraps up the first section, which is around our AI integration. Now, if you have any questions about any of that, please drop them in the chat, because we'll get to those at the end. But the second topic I wanted to cover today is this Unify integration with Azure Communication Services. So there's been quite a lot of noise in the Teams kind of contact center space recently about this new integration model from Microsoft. So I just want to break that down for you and give you kind of a realistic view of what that means and what the tangible benefits of that are. So to do that, I thought we'd just quickly look back at the key components, or the key technology components that have got us to this point. So way back in 2018, Microsoft publicly released Graph API. So the Graph API really is the driving technology component within Microsoft's ecosystem that has allowed contact center vendors like us to build solutions on top of Microsoft Teams. You can essentially view Graph API as the strings behind Teams. So it means that we can, using Graph API, we can decide where those Teams calls go. We can create Teams calls, we can deliver them to users, we can look at user availability. So all of the key technology components that we need to actually interact and build a solution on top of Teams. So that was way back in 2018. it was at this point that that Luware actually started building the Nimbus solution, or at least started the early investigations there. Fast forward a year, Microsoft at Ignite officially mentioned or officially announced these three integration models: Connect, Extend, and Power. At the time it was known. That Power has now changed to Unify. So that's the first time we kind of got those phrases there of Connect, Extend, and Power. At that point, kind of a year on, Microsoft announced Azure Communication Services. So at this point, it wasn't particularly clear where Azure Communication Services sat alongside that Teams ecosystem. They were still very separate at that point. And as I'll go on to kind of explain, Azure Communication Services is essentially a set of APIs that Teams is actually built on. So it's a chat API, it's a voice API, it's a video API. We then released Stratus, which was our connected solution using SIP trunks. And then in January 2021, that was always going to be a bit of stopgap. We released Nimbus. Okay, that was our extended contact center. It was then certified in 2022. And then you can see on this timeline, there's a big gap to where we are now, or March of this year, where Microsoft released or announced Teams Phone Extensibility, or that Unify integration model. So for the last kind of 3-4 years, Extend and the Graph API have kind of been the solution that all vendors are using until March, when this new integration model was officially announced. So just to kind of take a quick look at what these really mean from an architecture perspective. Connect is essentially where we connect a third-party solution to Teams via SIP trunks. So you would see a lot of the mainstream UCaaS vendors using this integration model to integrate into Teams. It basically means that they could take what they'd already built in their third-party clouds, set up SIP routing or set up an SBC and connect that into customers' Teams environment. And essentially, they're using the Teams as an endpoint there. So all the intelligence, all the routing is handled outside of Teams, and then they're just sending that final leg of the call to the customer's Teams environment. This can get quite messy with the SBCs, with the SIP connectivity, with call quality. And because all of that intelligence is really happening outside of Teams, it's kind of a slightly disconnected solution there, slightly fragmented. Extend, which is using that Graph API there, essentially means that call can come into Teams any method the customer wants to bring that into Teams. So this is what we've been using on Nimbus for the last kind of 4 or 5 years. That's amazing because we don't have to worry about whether that call is coming in by direct routing, calling plans, or Operator Connect. It really doesn't matter to us. All the customer has to do is deliver that call to Teams. And then essentially you can see the CCaaS app here. The best way I can describe it is essentially the puppet master to that Teams call. So the Teams call remains in the customer's tenant the whole time. But the Graph API is essentially just the strings behind that puppet, and the CCaaS app there, in this case Nimbus, is the one pulling those strings, directing it to the right person, looking at availability and routing those interactions out to people. So that's keeping that very much within that customer's environment. And then Unify is slightly different, right? We can still bring those calls into the customers in Teams environment via any method. That's what Teams Phone Extensibility, which was released earlier this year, has given us. So it means that customers can bring their Operator Connect, bring their calling plans, bring their direct routing into Teams. But instead of using Graph API as the routing engine, we are now using Azure Communication Services with this architecture. So Azure Communication Services, as I'll go on to explain, opens up quite a lot of exciting possibilities that Microsoft have built. But it also means that we can deliver this to different endpoints. So with the Extend model, we can basically only deliver this to a user in Teams. However, now we have the ability to deliver these interactions to other places. And that's what Microsoft are calling dual persona. And I'll mention that in a bit more detail in a moment. So essentially, the key differences really between Extend and Unify is, instead of using Graph API is the kind of core technology component there, we're now using Azure Communication Services. So just to kind of unpack Azure Communication Services a little bit, and again, please bear with me with this analogy. I've kind of like to picture Azure Communication Services as a tool shed full of different tools, okay? And those tools in the Microsoft world are SDKs or API kits, essentially. So Azure Communication Services is a tool shed full of API kits. So there are various different API kits here available. So we've got the cooling and automation, call automation API, which includes things like creating calls, distributing calls, audio, obviously, and call recording. So they might be your power tools. We've then got chat, okay, so we can bring chat natively into Teams from a website, for example, and we're already doing that with our omni-channel solution. We're taking chat from a website and bringing that natively into Teams using this chat API kit. We've got video, and again, we can bring video in from a customer's website natively into a Teams video meeting. Okay, we've got email, we've got SMS and social media, and we've got these real-time cognitive services and real-time AI tools like transcription, sentiment, and native integration to OpenAI. So I'd say this in the bottom left here is really what ACS opens up for us. Obviously, we could do a lot on the call automation side already with Graph API. We were already using chat and email and video routing with Azure Communication Services, but it's these real-time AI and cognitive services features that allow us to dip into things like OpenAI, get the sentiment natively out of that call that this unlocks for us. Now, this is, as I mentioned, a tool shed, okay? And if you really knew what you were doing, so if you were a very good kind of builder, you could probably build a house, okay? Or you could build a working solution on Azure Communication Services, bringing it back to Microsoft world. So you might be able to build kind of a mini contact center using this set of APIs here. However, to build that into a scalable solution that's going to be used by thousands of customers, as Nimbus is, you need, if you were building a city, you would need a construction team, project managers, architects, machinery. You need a huge amount of infrastructure to create that project. And that's a bit like what you would need from a contact center vendor, right? You need a team of developers, yes, but you also need the customer success. You need all the back office staff. And that's essentially what Nimbus brings. But we're bringing this API toolkit and that tool shed into a scalable solution that can be used across that by thousands of customers across the globe. So you will probably see out there are some handy developers that are developing nice little use cases using Azure Communication Services. But I think that's what this Unify integration now is officially bringing to the market, is meaning that teams like Luware can actually use that toolkit and bring it into a certified scalable solution. Just to finish off here, then, going back to that dual persona, I think other than those OpenAI and those real-time AI capabilities that Unify is going to unlock, it also unlocks this concept of dual persona. So as I mentioned, in prior versions of Nimbus or in Extend, we could essentially only deliver that call into Teams. Now it allows us to essentially mean that we can answer calls and handle those calls fully in the attendant console and fully in a CRM app. So that gives the customer choice of where they actually want to handle their calls. The IT help desk might still want to handle their calls in Teams. The reception want to handle their calls in the attendant console, which we have a native reception console here in Nimbus. And the front-facing customer service team might want to handle their call in a Salesforce widget or in a Dynamics widget. Okay, so really, what dual persona is giving us is giving that choice of where they want, of where the agent actually wants to handle the call. But that kind of wraps up the Unify section there. So that wraps up my presentation. Does anybody have any questions about either the Copilot integration or that Unify integration?
A couple of questions that come up on the chat, Ollie. Do you want me to fire those over to you?
Yeah, I think I can see them actually if I open it. Yeah. Do you want to fire them over, Gina?
Yeah, I can read it out for you. How's that service? Can you use alternative AI models other than Copilot with this?
Yes. So as I said there, the Copilot integration is our first kind of native AI integration into Nimbus. But absolutely, we will be opening this up to a kind of bring your own bot strategy. So a lot of our customers are developing their own large language models. They're developing their own AI bots, and we are going to essentially open Nimbus up so they can bring those AI models into the contact center. We're not an AI company. We're not building our own AI models. So we want to leave that open for the customers to bring what they've built. So there's obviously a lot of specialist, verticalized bots out there. We want customers to be able to bring them into Nimbus and use what they like there. Any more questions?
Can you hear me, Ollie?
Yep.
Can you use Extend and Unify together?
Yes, absolutely. So we essentially want to give customers the choice on whether they want their Extend services or whether they want to build a queue using Extend with the Graph API or using Azure Communication Services. So it's one platform. So Nimbus is one platform. And then you choose on a queue by queue level whether you want that to be using Azure Communication Services with the Unify integration or Extend using Graph API. I think that most customers will still use Extend and the Graph API for the foreseeable future. But if you want to start trying out some of those Unify integration features, you can just build a service on Unify and away you go.
Great. Pretty easy.
Brilliant. Thank you. Ollie, just a quick question from me. First of all, are you guys happy to do demos for end users?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll always jump on a
Brilliant.
demo and help you scope that out.
Fabulous. We can help you there. And just a final piece, I'm going to put you on the spot here slightly, Ollie. Sorry. What would you say are the three? There's a lot of noise in the market with contact centers, certainly around Teams. What would you say are the three key elements that maybe differentiate yourself from your competitors? Just three.
Yeah, I would say, obviously, we've spoken a lot about technology today, but the goal is to give one platform for the customers to kind of choose how they want to deploy this technology. We're not going to force a customer down a specific route with a certain AI model, for example, or saying that you need to go to Unify rather than Extend. So it's a journey with all of this technology. And what we're really kind of keen on is obviously talking about this new stuff, which was the purpose of this webinar today, but giving a really solid foundation, right? So you've got everything out of the box. You can build your workflows quickly. You've got all of your reports out of the box. So I'd say it's that out of the box nature. And then you can layer on top, as and when the customers are ready, you can layer on top this technology. I think the second thing I'd like to say is that we will only start releasing and talking about technology when it's absolutely ready. So if you'd asked us 6 months ago about Copilot, we would have said, yes, we're working on it, but we're not ready to show you anything yet. And I think a lot of vendors in this kind of space will release things or start marketing things way before it's actually ready to go into production. So you can be sure that if you start selling something to your customer, it is ready, it is live and ready to be used. And if we do start talking about something before it's ready, we'll always make it extremely clear that it's a roadmap item. But I'd always rather talk about things that are ready rather than things that are going to be ready in a year's time. I think that was only two, Mike, but I can't think of the third.
Yeah, Ollie, I think the third one is just you as a company are great. That's fabulous. I think, for us, the teams can be a minefield for a lot of people, and I'm not sure it's scary, but certainly maybe means that some people want to take a step back. The other thing with working with ourselves and Luware, we actually at Nuvola can help with the Teams integration, with the Copilot scripting, all these kind of things, which, again, from a reseller's point of view, that's more opportunity for making that customer more sticky, getting into potentially areas where in the past you hadn't done. And it might be where you're on a journey where you want to dip your toe in, and that's where using Nuvola and the PS side of things means that you can start with as a sales organization and move through the process of accreditation. Or you might go, we only ever want to be a sales organization, we're going to utilize Nuvola and Luware. And like I said, there's lots of bits around it as well as Luware where you as a partner can actually make money, but also make those end users invest in you, which means that you can sell more and more to them. So I think that's the key takeaway here. Luware is a small part. It's a key part for us, a really easy talking point. And as Ollie said, you don't have to start big. You can start small and just gradually build and build and build with the whole capability around Luware, which is what we like as well. Okay, I think on that note, I think we've done the questions. I would like to thank everyone for attending. I hope it was useful. Any feedback would be really good. As usual with these webinars, every now and again, you're going to get some issues with sound and this, that, and the other. So we kind of apologise for that, but that makes it more real. It shows that we're not bots or AI robots, which is me and Ollie definitely aren't them. So again, thank you very much. Any questions, any opportunities you have, please get hold of the team. There's some special offers going around with the support side of things for your first year. So please get in touch with us. Let's look at these opportunities. We can do the discovery and see whether there's a real opportunity for you to get into some customers maybe in the past you hadn't been able to. Thank you all again. Enjoy the weather, and we will speak to you very soon. Thank you very much.